So, so I'd like to welcome everybody to Commissioners Forum, sponsored by the Calvert County Republican Central Committee. I would say the Pledge of Allegiance, but this building doesn't have an American flag. And but I'd still like to stand and do it. Maybe there's one outside there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I want to thank the Northeast Community Center for having us here today, and also to the Calvert County Public Media Streaming Group that will be recording this live and also recording to be saved. No private recording of the forum or pictures because we are live streaming it, and it will be on the Calvert County YouTube channel. All mics are hot, just to remind everybody, and it takes a few minutes afterwards too also. So if you ever listen to any of the tubes, you can see that some conversations go on for a while. I'm going to go ahead and introduce everybody. Starting at this end, we're going with at-large. You got Myra Gallowens, Paul Harrison, Buddy Hance, Todd Ireland. Then we go District 1, Mike Hart, Patrick Flannery, Steve Jones, District 2, Mark Cox and Chris Gadway. District 3, Catherine Gasso, and Evan Turnansky is missing, and Kelly McConkley on the end. I want to thank you all for being here. The process is like we've been doing. This is our third one. I think you guys have it down pat now. It will be a 2-minute opening, and then a 1 minute for each question, and then a 2-minute close. I do have a bounce chart, what I call, so that we can move it around. I also move seats around each time we do it to give everybody a different perspective. And we hope to get over 6 to 8 questions. We have JP here in the back. If anybody wants to ask a question, we have a card. You just put the question on there. So as it goes, as we start, if you got a question, just raise your hand and JP will get you a card. And we can use some more questions. And I'll start off with Myra, and then we're going to go down this way.
Okay. Let me get in here. I'm Myra Gowans, and I am the founder of Calvert Citizens United. We're the group that put together the lawsuit, and our case is coming up before the Supreme Court of Maryland on September 12th. Our lawsuit is about protecting the smallest, most fragile county in the state of Maryland. We're also the 6th smallest county in the United States. So the comp plan was put together and the master plans are being worked on. And we're worried about the massive unrestricted growth up and down Route 4 and from 231 down to Benedict. The citizens have come together because they recognize that this is a crucial time to vote in this lovely county that we call home. They have amassed money. We've asked for money and to pay the attorney fees. It's very expensive. And they've paid over $115,000 to fight this case for the last 3 years. Our senior advisor was Senator Bernie Fowler, who just recently passed away. But he gave us so much direction, not only in the later years, but forever. Bernie Fowler is considered, the late Senator Bernie Fowler is considered the environmental legislator for the entire Chesapeake Bay region, 64,000 square miles in 7 states, including DC. So what we're doing is we're trying to preserve this county for you, your children, and your children's children yet to come. Thank you.
I forgot one other request. Nope, perfect.
That was right on 2 minutes. That's great.
So, one other request was, geez, I gotta hit the cancel, is that if nobody stands up for the because the camera bouncing back and forth. So
Okay.
just be comfortable and sit and talk would be great.
Good.
Okay. Paul.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We've seen a lot of the same faces. This is our third forum. I'm surprised that there's not more participation throughout Calvert. I guess people's lives are just busy, but hopefully with this video, we can reach more people. Again, my name is Paul Harrison. You can find out more about me at paulforcalvert.info, but most of you already have heard my story. I've been an accountant for over 30 years in finance and admin and accounting for 30 years, and I see some things coming like the Kerwin and some other things that are going to change here that are going to hurt the forward funding of Calvert. FY23 looks good, it's funded, but I think FY24 and beyond is going to be a challenge. I want to tell you something about me that I have not brought up so far. I used to drive a tractor trailer. I still maintain my DOT card, so I could hop in a rig at any time. I keep that as a backup in case I get fired or laid off or whatever. I could hop in the big rig. Now, gas or diesel's $6 a gallon, so I don't know how far you can drive, but I can still do that. So it's paulforcalvert.info, and if you want to take a look at my platform and things that'll help you understand who I am and why I'm running. My kids, all native Calvert Countyans, Paul, Tyler, and Molly are 18, 16, and 13. And Paul will soon be moving on. He just got a job with W.L. Gary. I was telling Todd that he's in Steamfitter 602, and it's pretty impressive to me. He's making good money already. So I feel like I've gotten a check mark on that one, and we'll work on the other two now. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. I want to thank you, too, for coming out tonight and those that are watching. My name is Earl Buddy Hance. Everybody calls me Buddy. I currently serve as an at-large commissioner. This is my first term. I also serve as president. I've been president of the board for the last 2 years. And I ran 4 years ago on a platform to protect the quality of life that we have here in Calvert. My family's been here for over 200 years, and so we like it here. And I decided to run. I want to make sure that my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren want to stay here. This is a wonderful place, and I didn't like the way things were headed. I voted against all the town center expansions. I voted against the comp plan. I have voted against as many budget requests as I have voted for. I spend your money like I spend my own, and I'm happy to say that in my 4 years, we've had balanced budgets. We've received a AAA bond rating every year since I've been there. AAA bond rating, most people don't understand, but it is very important. It's someone else doing an evaluation of your budget and how you spend your money. And for them to give us a AAA bond rating is excellent. In fact, I had a bond rater one day say they'd give us 4 A's if they could. We've done a very good job in Calvert County protecting your money. So I'm running again to continue to carry that message forward and to protect Calvert County, and I would appreciate your vote on July the 19th. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Todd Ireland. I'm a lifelong citizen of Calvert County. I live on my family's farm on Wilson Road in Huntingtown. I grew up working on the water, working on a family farm. I spent the last 28 years serving the citizens of Calvert County as a correctional officer and as a deputy sheriff. While doing so, I was able to attend numerous leadership schools, which ultimately led to me receiving numerous citations, awards, and proclamations. I retired as a captain from the sheriff's office in December of 2018. One of the most rewarding things I did while I was with the sheriff's office was help people solve their problems. No matter how big or small their problems were, they were those people's problems that were important to them at the time. And I enjoyed doing that. I enjoy serving this. I look forward to enjoying serving the citizens of Calvert County as a commissioner. Like I said, I'm not ready to finish my service here yet. We have to have growth, we have to have smart growth, we have to have planned growth, and we have to evaluate our infrastructure. We also need to keep public safety at the forefront. We live in the safest county in the state of Maryland for a reason. We also need to monitor our paramedic services. We're going to have more retirement facilities opening up, and that's going to put a demand on our paramedics, so we're going to have more paramedics down the road. Our education system, we need to forge a relationship, and we need to have communication with the Board of Education. And our environment is extremely important. We have one bay and we have one Patuxent River, and we need to take care of those. With the biggest problem I see coming into our future is going to be sewer issues. We have a lot of neighborhoods in the county that are already on holding tanks, and we need to be able to work with those people and formulate a plan to be able to address that issue before it does pollute our bays or our rivers or our tributaries leading to them. Thank you.
Well, my name is Mike Hart. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I've been a business owner for over 20 years, grew up here, have a wife, 2 kids. Had the pleasure of being your county commissioner in District 1 for the last 8 years. And as Commissioner Hand said, we've had a AAA bond rating for 6 years that I've been here. And why is that important? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to look around out here and see the cost of everything is going up, from gas to food to everything. But I've been able to lower the tax rate 3 times since I've been on the board. You don't do that without understanding how to run a business and how to make, this guy said to me one time, he said, politicians know how to fill out the back of the check, but business people know how to fill out the front. And I look at your money as the same as I do my money. I don't have the luxury to blow money at my business, and I don't do it at yours. Been very fortunate to be part of boards. We put the first animal shelter in the county. We made schools safer. There was no doors on some classrooms when I first came on. Had the pleasure of working with boards that's helped make that happen. And I want to make sure my kids have the same opportunity to live in the same place that I did, to have the nice way of life that we have, the waterways, the open spaces. And I want to make sure we maintain that and keep that. Then I appreciate your vote in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Patrick E. Flaherty. I still need to discuss this with you, and some things need calling out. Commissioner Hart has participated in spreading unsubstantiated rumors, and rumors destroy reputations, specifically targeting the character of Mr. Jones here, a man that has shown in the time that I've known him to be a forthright and honorable man. Hart is playing D.C. politics, attacking an opponent with the spreading of vicious rumors, which is fact, using darkened picture of Mr. Jones in campaign mailings, causing Mr. Jones to appear evil or darker skinned. That's a fact, and implying what? The low road indeed. Is he really representative of what you want as a commissioner? More fact and verifiable truth. Last election cycle, Commissioner Hart promised to you, and you at home, that he would not seek a 3rd term. And yet here he sits mocking you for trusting him. He shows his lack of character and honor. His word is not his bond. He should not be sitting up here. Much has been written of politicians not keeping their word. Remember, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Does honor, integrity have any meaning anymore? Will you overlook Commissioner Hart's lying to you? It is obvious that term limits must be instituted. I call on all candidates and current and minute commissioners to support term limits with a maximum of 8 years, a limit of which I will adhere. During this forum, I ask you to see only 2 candidates for District 1, myself and Mr. Jones. Thank you.
I'm Steve Jones, running for Calvert County Commissioner, District 1. I've been a police officer for 3 decades at this point, and I have served Calvert County well, and Calvert County has served me well. Instead of telling you about my bio and my background, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the reasons, not all of the reasons why I'm running. I want to talk about a pathway for our children. One of the things by sitting on the Planning Commission that I realized was that when a child graduates high school, graduates college, gets out of the military, they can't come home because it's too expensive to come back home. And we need to create some pathways to get our children to come back to Calvert County. What we're seeing in the county, folks, is we're seeing the elderly population increasing, and we're doing a great job with the elderly population, but we need to do a better job of getting our young people here. We're starting to see a decrease in school population, and I believe that trend will continue in years to come. We're going to be having very, very open discussions about what we need to do to keep our young people here. School safety. I have a colleague of mine, Ricky Thomas, here. We were among the first 2 police officers in Calvert County to teach active shooter in the schools. He made a very astute, and I've used this before, comment, and that is that we spend more money protecting bones in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Institute than we do protecting our children in Calvert County. We need to invest in our kids in Calvert County for safety, not just financially, but with education and teaching how to keep our kids truly safe. Last thing I want to talk about is making sure that we have a market rate adjustment that's being implemented on July the 1st. I commend the commissioners for doing that. However, we have balanced the budget on the backs of county workers, police officers, and correctional officers for far too long. And, a lot of politicians, I've seen this over my career, talk about how great Calvert County is. Folks, that doesn't come for free. It comes on the backs and sweat and pain of county workers, from everybody from county roads to police officers to correctional officers. Thank you.
For those who do not know me, I'm Mark Cox, District 2 candidate for County Commissioner. I have a lovely wife of 33 years, 2 wonderful kids, and 4 grandkids. I'm a lifelong resident of Calvert County, small business owner, and a 4th-generation farmer. My priorities are simple: public safety in our schools. I am committed to providing all necessary resources to keep Calvert County the safe place we know and love. I've been endorsed by both school unions, the teacher union, and the support staff union. We must get back to the basics of our education, ensuring that all lines of communications are open and all stakeholders are heard. We can maintain Calvert's rural roots, making it a place folks want to call home. I would appreciate your support and your vote in July. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Gadway, your District 2 Commissioner. I, too, want to reach out to the school board. We have tried to reach out multiple times. They turn around and they don't want to communicate with us. They don't want to talk to us openly. So I do ask all of you to not only pay attention to the commissioner races, but also please pay attention to the Board of Education election as well. That's as paramount. Our children are relying on all of us to do our homework with them. Over the past year, I've been working for you. I'm your voice. I have seen the high-density development in our county, and I've been working to try and hold it back. Just today, I pushed for tighter adequate public facility requirements on sewer and water, on setting the needs for public safety, on setting the guidelines for the suggested free public recreation space for each of our residents throughout the county, and especially asking for a new realistic traffic study to prove what each and every one of us already knows, that our roads do not adequately flow our current traffic. We need to do better. We will do better moving forward. We will push back high-density residential development. We will continue to provide the best public safety for the people who call the greatest county in Maryland home. Again, my name is Chris Gadway. I ask for your vote between now and July 19th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Grasso. My husband and I moved here almost 47 years ago and raised our family here. We moved here for the rural character and the sense of community. When I would drive down Route 4 and see those silos right before you turn off for 260, my blood pressure went down. I was home in the jewel of Maryland. Over the years, I have watched our jewel tarnish with high-density housing, like apartments, too much traffic, critical race theory being taught in our schools under the guise of equity, a polluted bay, a polluted river, and little regard for our farmers and our watermen. I have attended many meetings for the build-out in the town centers. I've also attended the workshops. I am you. I have been there doing the work. I am part of this Calvert County community. We need a pause on building. We need to step back and evaluate how we are going to move forward. We need to take into consideration what you, the citizens, want for our county, and we need to proceed and only proceed strategically. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Kelly McConkey. I'm in my 10th year as an elected official. I'm currently running for re-election for the Board of County Commissioners, District 3. I served 6 years on the Board of Education. In my time on the Board of Education, I accomplished many things. One of the top priorities was school safety, working with the county commissioners to get them to come up with $2 million, and we matched it, putting school security into all of our schools. Like Commissioner Hart mentioned, doors and locks on the classrooms, buzzing in to get into the school, and many other features. Another thing that we did was we were able, when I got there, the employees were 5 behind on back steps. We were able to get them completely caught up. When I got elected as county commissioner, the employees were 3 back steps, and they were 17% behind in pay parity. As of this year, we were able to get them completely caught up, which is really good. As far as the growth in the county, the growth has been at its slowest point since almost 1930. We have grown less than 0.5% in the last 10 years. The growth that you're seeing is not from anything this board did or the previous board. This dates back to the zoning back in the mid-'80s, close to the '90s, '86 to '90.
We got a temporary stop. Your time is up. Yeah. That's-
I thought it was assassination attempt. Jeez. Yeah. So back to the growth, we've grown less than 3%, so the zoning hasn't changed at all. And when somebody owns a piece of property that they're allowed, if they have the proper zoning, that goes to the planning commission, not to the county commissioner. So if it goes before the planning commission and they are in their rights to build it, that the planning commission approves it, not the county commissioners. I don't think a lot of people understand that. So when they think the county commissioners are building all these things, that's not what's happening. The only thing that we've built is firehouses and libraries, basically. So, time's up? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go into questions. I'm trying to group the questions so I can keep it moving in the right direction. So the first question is, what about the future of fire and EMS? Paid? How will they be paid? Volunteers? Support? This was just said in somebody's talk, but this is the second time we've actually got this question. So we will start with Kelly and go in this direction.
So this is this past year was the first year that we implemented the paid EMS, because we wanted to make sure the fire departments were coming to us and telling us what the needs of the community were. So we provided that, and we'll continue to monitor it to see how many more we'll have to add. Whenever you have a population like in the southern end of the county, with more retirement homes and things like that, they are running a large amount of calls, so we want to make sure that we continue to move forward to have enough EMS for the needs of the county citizens. Thank you.
When I was asked this question at the last forum, I admitted this isn't my wheelhouse for sure. But common sense tells me that we need the equipment, we need the man and women power to move forward, to keep our fire staff safe and to keep the public safe. So as county commissioner, we will find in the budget what is needed to keep our community safe. Thank you.
As a past volunteer fireman here in the county, and my daughter and son both being firemen and EMTs, and my wife being an EMT here in the county in the past, and now sitting here as a commissioner, I can honestly sit there and tell you that the volunteer service in this county is simply amazing. It's strong, it's vibrant. We sit there and we help kids learn the volunteer service. We teach them fundamentals that they don't learn in many areas across the rest of the country. I am proud of the volunteers. I will stand behind the volunteers. I will stand in front of the volunteers. I will always support them. I will always support their requests. One of their requests was that they needed assistance with paid EMS. We provided the paid EMS. We will continue to honor their wishes through other means like soft billing. We are working to have that closed by the end of the year. Thank you.
So as far as EMS goes, the volunteers in Calvert County do a wonderful job. I was kind of hesitant when, a couple years ago, we did start the EMS hiring process and how it would work between the volunteers and the paid people. But actually, it has worked very well. This year in the budget, we added 8 new personnel for EMS. So I'm glad that we're steady funding that. Something we're lacking on is a soft billing. We should have started soft billing right when we started the program, but we are working on it. It is in the works, and hopefully soft billing will come sooner than later. Thank you.
So as I am a volunteer, worked with one of the firehouses here in the county, and what I'll tell you is, you know, it was a hard step, I think, to get paid fires. But it was something that was necessary and needed. And there'll probably more of that moving forward. How do we pay for that? I agree with past comments that we need to do that through, you know, soft billing, and it's going to come from tax base. Certain things have to come before other things. And firefighters, police, teachers, things like that have to come first. Thank you.
I believe we should develop better programs and incentives for our volunteers to encourage more participation and involvement and getting them actually to, you know, sign up and to minimize to the maximum possible the paid positions as much as possible. I'm not really into the soft billing for, you know, an ambulance service or EMS service or fire service when our taxes, our property taxes, income taxes, and other fees are designed just for that specific purpose. That's a fundamental basic mission of government, is to provide for the basic welfare and safety of its citizens, not to have them pay extra on top of what they've already paid, you know, for the services that we're supposed to be providing. That's my position. Thank you.
So we have a great relationship with the volunteers, and we knew this was coming. And it sounds cliche to say live within your means, but that's what we've done. So it's built into the budget, and the decisions we made, like with OPEB, and that's other post-employee benefits, that's required by law. You have to do that. Well, we didn't sit back like some other jurisdictions. We funded that very heavy. We've done very well with that. And now we have 2 generations in there where other jurisdictions are pulling to try to make that happen. We don't have to do that. We keep our CIP, our capital improvement projects. Governments all the time get asked, can you do this, can you do this, can you do this? And sometimes we just can't. You know, we try to build everything that everybody wants, but sometimes we can't. And we put a threshold very early on, especially with this board. We sat down and said, you know, this is where we're going to go. We're not going to go above that. And things like that have helped us when it's coming to budget time to afford things like this. This won't be the only thing that hits us in time. I mean, you've already heard in past discussions about the Kerwin report and things of that. It's always evolving. There's always something. And you prepare, and that's by being very fiscally sound and understanding that you have to live within your means. And sometimes there's, thank you.
So we need to continue to monitor the calls for service, particularly Solomon's. I mean, they're getting inundated with at least 4 assisted living homes that I can think of between Lusby, Dow, and Solomon's. And those calls for services are significant. And these people save lives, folks. That's what they do. So they need to be funded without a doubt. We also have one of the best, as far as I'm concerned, professional volunteer firefighter forces in the state of Maryland. I've worked with many of these men and women day in and day out. We've actually done training, sheriff's office and volunteers, and we always had a great working relationship with them. And we actually had a forum for the fire department personnel and EMS personnel a few weeks back, or 2 weeks back. And I told them then, you know, we'd try to keep as many volunteers in there as we possibly could, as long as, you know, they were still fulfilling the needs of the citizens of this county. Thank you.
So I spent over 30 years of active service at the Prince Rupert Volunteer Fire Department, so I'm a volunteer in my heart. And my first year in office was when they came in and said they needed help. and it hurt me to vote to give them paid service, because we were the last county in the state of Maryland to not have, we had 100% volunteers. When you picked up the call, 911, and asked for service, they were all volunteers. That ended in 2019, but they came to us and said, we need help, and we gave them help. We've given them everything they've needed. We have 2 paid crews in Solomons. This year, Solomons is going to run over 4,000 ambulance calls, just in Solomons. We have a paid crew in Prince Frederick. We have a paid crew in Dunkirk. We have a paid crew in North Beach. As of today, the only places we don't have paid crews are St. Leonard's and Huntingtown. And that year, when they came in with that first request, that was about $2.6 million. We found the money. As has been said, you know, certain things you have to find the money, and we always find the money. I don't believe the fire service is going to be in the same situation. Just the training requirements are less, and running an ambulance is a completely different animal than running a fire truck. So, thank you.
Listen, we had the Firemen's Association meeting with just the candidates, and it was a pretty, they were pretty stressed about recruitment and retention. I think one of the things that we're not taking advantage of is more recruitment and required internship through the CTA fire program, and make sure that kids that come through there that go on to be professional firefighters spend some time at the houses in the county. That's one. Number two, I think the underserved area in the county, I think every area gets pretty fast calls, but I think one of the areas that's underserved is the Ranch Club. There's 5,000 homes in the Ranch Club. There's a facility there, but it's not often manned. So we need to figure out what a plan is for that. I think Solomons is looking to move their, build a new firehouse. They said they were going to move it closer to the Ranch Club, but the problem is they have another retirement home coming into Solomons. So now your main demand is from the nursing homes, and you're going to move it away. So you got to figure that out. Thank you.
I believe that, well, first of all, I'm a fireman family. My dad was a lieutenant in the DC Fire Department. So I believe that what has to happen is that we do need to have the EMS. We do need to have them paid. We do need to have them skilled. I would really like to see the community college put together programs with continuing education for our young people, so you could recruit from our schools and they could get degrees and continuing education on the job, so that they could be bigger. They could be something bigger than a part of just themselves. And I believe that that would be a way to encourage them to do public service, if they could also at the same time move up the line and be able to do more and more in the industry or in the volunteerism. The other thing that,
Time.
oh, is it? Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go into another question, but we're actually going to move with Steve Jones to start it, and we'll go in this direction and then come back this way. And so we're still in the budget talks. So there's a lot of talk about spending taxpayers' dollars here in Calvert County with the current economy seeing citizens being squeezed. How do you see the fiscal responsibility in Calvert so that citizens can keep more of their money?
Well, first of all, you know, we're going to have to tighten the bootstraps, because the one thing that I've said and that I'll stand by is I will not raise taxes. What I say to you is I ask you, if the question doesn't come up, to ask every candidate here if they believe they may or may not have to raise taxes. Because unless we make some budget cuts, which we're going to have to do, and I think everyone up here will agree with that, that's going to be the only option left. So what I'm going to do is we're going to be fiscally responsible and make sure that we make the cuts where they have to be. Thank you.
Could you repeat that question? I'm kind of deaf.
Okay. There's been a lot of talk of spending taxpayers' dollars here in Calvert County with the current economy seeing citizens being squeezed. How do you see fiscal responsibility in Calvert so that the citizens can keep more of their money?
Well, I've always wondered myself if there's anybody who has any economic knowledge that sits in finance or within county government and can actually see the projections that have actually come down, written news organizations and economic reports and things like that. We received hundreds of millions of dollars from Dominion Cove Point LNG. It's gone. It's been spent. That was the time then to conserve what we received. To move forward, that's water under the bridge, but to move forward, everything has to be looked at. Only needs, not wants. The needs can be addressed and funded, but wants come last, in my opinion. Thank you.
So when I first got on, we had an $8 million deficit. I didn't vote to raise taxes then. People said, what do you do? Well, we reorged the government. We streamlined it, tried to make it faster, more efficient. Some positions we didn't need, some positions we did need. Sometimes you hire somebody and they go, you're spending money. Well, if you're hiring that person that does a job that, let's say, they're a grant writer. There's a lot of grants out there that you need a professional person to write. Sometimes it's equipment that you're wasting money with. We've gone through all that through Public Works, through our planning and zoning to make things run more efficient, be more cost effective. Like I say, these things always happen. Teacher pensions was taken away. The state used to pay all the teacher pensions. They took that away. That was a $5 million hit. We used to get the highway user funds. We don't get that either. So you always have to be preparing for economies up, down. That's what they're going to do. But you have to constantly change with it. If you're doing something that's just not fiscally smart, it's not effective, you have to move, and it's easier. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
So since about 2006, I've been tasked with helping with the sheriff's office budget, and we always had to prioritize. Is it a want? Is it a need? How important is it? A lot of tough decisions are going to have to be made during budgeting time, without a doubt. Everybody's got their hand reached out for something. The pie's only so big. You can only cut the pie but so many ways. The biggest thing we have to do here is figure out how to make that pie get bigger. Where are we going to get that extra funding from? I'm a taxpayer in this county just as well as everybody else is in here, this room. And the last thing I want to do is have to raise taxes in this county. We need to explore other options. Is there possible expansion for the power plant? I don't know. But we need to explore other options and see what we have coming down the road to help cover these other unfunded costs. Because we also have the blueprint through school system coming as well, which we don't know how much that's going to cost us. So there's a lot of unknowns at this time.
Thank you.
So in 4 years, I've been sitting on the board, we've reduced property tax. We've done across-the-board budget cuts to every department in county government. What I have learned is county government is just customer service. So every time we make a cut to somebody's budget, you're going to get a reduction in service. Doesn't matter what that service is, but it impacts everybody. So, I take very seriously the financial situation of this county. I said at one of the other forums, I lay awake at night. This year, when we started this budget process, we had a request for $20 million in new employees and new programs, and we had $6 million to spend. So you make decisions, and every time, as was said, you have to determine what's a need and what's a want. So when somebody comes in front of me, I ask questions, why do you need this? If somebody tells me I just want it, then they're not getting anything out of me. So, you just scrutinize the budget. This county's in excellent financial shape. We have a significant rating day fund to handle any bumps, but as was said, there are some things coming, but I think we can handle those.
I'm going to set up a table on the side. We're going to do some three-card Monte, and I'm going to tell you about property taxes, okay? So when your assessment goes up 11% and they lower the rate 3%, what's the net of your increase to taxes? 8%. Understand that. We don't use the constant yield formula here. We wait for the state to raise the assessments. And listen, they're partners in the same game. If they raise your assessment and we keep the rate a little lower, they still get more money. Okay, this county lived with the same rate for 30 years, and they grew the budget from a $50 million budget to a $300 million budget. They did it on the backs of taxpayers in the subdivisions, because every time a house came on, that was new money too. And every time your assessment went up, that's new money too. So think about that. This is my jam. This is what I do. I look at numbers. Okay? Don't be fooled. Okay? And listen, if they found $2.6 million in the budget, then the budget wasn't tight enough. If they found $357,000 in the sheriff's office budget, that budget wasn't tight enough either. I'm frugal. I'm frugal with my own money, and I'm frugal with your money. Thank you.
I believe that we need to do a forensic audit of our budget. Our budget is 556 pages. Our budget is also over one-third of $1 billion with a B. Buddy Hans said he never thought he'd wake up and ever hear that number in his lifetime. But what happens, I met with our finance director. We have a lot of consultants that need big money because they're a consulting firm, and we have a lot of outside contracts. I think we need to start with that. But Dominion is a problem for us, and we need to focus on that right this very minute. I believe that they're going to have a consultant reevaluate and try to renegotiate our pilot plan that we did. But Dominion is owned by Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett. And I want to tell you this, 77 million cubic feet of liquid natural gas goes out of there every single day. So that is a lot, and we need to get taxes on that. Thank you.
As they've said previously, this board's lowered your tax rate 2 years in a row. We received a AAA bond rating 6 years in a row, 3 years in my term. We've continued to fund our schools. We've given tax breaks to disabled law enforcement. We've funded OPEB, built new parks and amenities. We've gotten internet access. Everybody will have internet access by 2023. We'll be the first county in the whole state of Maryland to be able to do that build out. We've cut each department by 3% last year. We have a top-notch finance department that I trust completely. I will not vote to raise your taxes, and we're saving a lot of money right now because we're unable to fill positions in our parks and recs where there's hundreds of jobs that are available that we're not filling, so we're saving money with that right now. And like Buddy had said, we have over $50 million in our rainy day fund right now. So this county's finances are in top notch. You have nothing to worry about. Thank you.
In another life, I did formulation and execution of my agency's budget. It wasn't unusual to have it ready to go, be ready to go up on the Hill with my boss and argue our case and have Congress say, cut 3%. We cut 3%. With that background, I will make sure we make the cuts where we need to make them, and we will not put the extra added burden of taxes on you, the taxpayer, because you are already under a tremendous pressure with the price of gas, with the price of groceries, clothes, utilities, everything else. I'm a fiscal conservative. I know budgeting. I know how to tighten my belt. As a matter of fact, my boss, my next to the last boss, was Bill Clinton's childhood friend. And I wasn't invited to his retirement party because I wouldn't do something illegal and give him money to give to children in Arkansas. So I know what needs to be done, and I can do it. Thank you very much.
Being one of the wealthiest counties in the nation comes at a cost. We receive very little back from the state on the monies that get sent to the state. And because of this and the history of this, we as a county and the previous leaders have learned that we need to spend wisely. We have hired grant writers, for example, to receive more state and federal funds and monies. Our county offices work very effective. I would like to see a position to ensure that they are not only effective but more efficient and most efficient as possible. Not to say that they aren't now, but there's always ways to tighten the budget. Going back to soft billing, those who don't know, soft billing is billing the insurance companies. If there is no insurance or the insurance doesn't pay, there is no money, there is no bill. That money is brought in to help offset the costs associated with the paid EMS and the ambulances. We could literally not have to buy another ambulance ever.
Okay, so cutting the department by 3%, I commend all the department heads for that. We must tighten our belts even a little bit more. I will spend your money like I spend mine. As far as taxes go, I would not like to raise taxes, But the pie, just like Todd said, is just so big, we just need to divide it a little bit here and there and make it through this. Now, the big thing on my list is a community center in Prince Frederick. We may not be able to do the whole thing, but let's start with part of it. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question we have, how much of the COVID relief fund went to the watermen and the farmers, and how was this determined? And we're starting with Mark and going this way.
Sarah, can you repeat that question, please?
How much of the COVID relief fund went to the watermen and the farmers? How was this determined?
I do not have that answer tonight. I'm sorry, but I do not have that information with me. Thank you.
Chris?
Sorry, I was still writing down the question. I don't specifically have the answer to that either. However, during the COVID times, federal government came in and they opened it up to any businesses. I know that there was special set-aside sections for farmers. I don't know if there was special sections set aside for watermen, but any business was able to apply for those funds. And all of those monies, I believe, are available to be able to be seen where they were spent on the Small Business Administration website. I haven't looked them up, but it would be determined through the Small Business Administration through federal monies. I don't know that local ARPA money went to that direction. If some of it did, it would be toward infrastructure, I believe, but that's the best of my knowledge.
Same thing. I'm not really sure what went to the watermen and what went to our farmers. I do know that monies were made available through the Small Business Administration, and I do know our rate of closure within the county was very, very small. When we were all, you know, every Friday night we would do a local business and get our dinner there. And I talked to people within the community, and I think from what I have talked to people and heard, we took care of our businesses very well and had very few closures.
So when the state gave the counties money, they basically told us where that money had to go. So certain money went to certain businesses, whether you were considered essential. Same with our employees, got certain funds if they worked during the COVID and put themselves at risk, those types of things. So when the state gives you the money, they tell you where it's got to go. So I'm not aware of any particular money that went to the watermen or the farmers.
Oh, me, I'm sorry, excuse me.
That's it.
I'm not really sure. I want to admit that, but I'm sure whatever they got wasn't enough. The watermen are the ones that lose out a lot because they don't own the water. The farmers have farms, they have land, they can see where the value is and they can see what has happened to the farms. But the watermen own their boats, and that's what they own. They do not own that water, the bay and the river. They fish it and they bring us a bounty, but it's not the same thing. So the watermen are always behind the 8 ball, as far as I can tell. The other thing is, basically, I know that the small businesses, our restaurants in the county, did get money from Small Business Administration and because of COVID. So it is online, so you can go online to look that up if you would so desire. Thank you.
So on my day job, we handled money called the CARES Act and the HERF, which is the Higher Education Relief Fund. But the county, I don't think, got money specifically for the watermen. I'll let Todd's a waterman. You probably know whether you got money or not, I hope. But listen, the government was handing out money like chiclets. I mean, you get $1 trillion, you get $1 trillion, you get $1 trillion. That's your money, you know. And I see some of that here. You know, you get a community center, and you get a community center. That's awesome. I watched the Planning Commission video, and they put together a proposal for the Prince Frederick Community Center. And it went from the original building was bought for $2.3 million. The plan for the community center for Prince Frederick is $50 million. 50 with a 50, right? That's a lot of money. They want to raise the building completely, and, we've got to get some fiscal restraint in this setup, so that when the next crisis hits, because Joe Biden already said there's going to be another one, another pandemic coming, we got to figure that out. Thanks.
So as far as I know, no farmer, no waterman got any money. As was said earlier, all that money came to us, it was just a pass-through. It was all strictly controlled, who got for what. Most businesses got some payroll assistance, but there were certain businesses that never qualified. There were entertainment businesses in the county that couldn't get a dime to help pay their rent for their buildings or pay for their, normal associated costs to run the business. Couldn't get anything. There was a lot of money doled out to hotels and some businesses, but of all that money that came, to my knowledge, not one farmer or waterman got a dime of it. And but as was said, we just doled out based on the rules that they gave us. So we didn't have any flexibility to distribute those funds.
I know there was a program to ensure that the waterman's license fees were covered. Title fishing license is $1,000 on up, depending on what you have associated with that particular license. So I know that a lot of the licenses were paid up, and there was also a percentage of loss that was recovered to some of the watermen, but they had to qualify. I mean, they had to have records to back it up, and it was a percentage of loss, and that's what it was based on. And I believe, don't hold me to this, but I believe that came through the CARES Act. At the end of it, there was a pot of money left over from whatever, if it was the CARES Act, specifically for the watermen. I know that was split up amongst them as well. But as far as dollar figures, I don't have it. Thank you.
Right, now I'm assuming you're talking the CARES Act funding, and as Commissioner Hand said, it was a government program, so the guidelines were pretty specific. Our economic development did a great job of working with businesses to try to get them qualified and try to assist them with that, but an exact dollar amount that went to any, whether it was entertainment, watermen, farmers, I don't know that number exactly, but I do know that program was very specific in nature, and that's how it was followed through.
I have no knowledge of that. However, I'd like to backtrack on the previous questions where we're facing a stock market, in addition to a real estate market decline. Right now, mortgage rates are above 6%. Right? The housing market has slowed down drastically. This is going to be a repeat of 2006-2008 scenario where property values are going to start to decline over the years because of federal monetary policy. Property rates decline, property taxes decline, revenue to the county declines. All right. And now here we're sitting on a $50 million rainy day fund. $50 million. That's excessive taxation. That money should reduced through the rate reduction, or spent on infrastructure. Instead of $4.5 million for paving roads, maybe actually pave a lot more and resurface a whole lot more roads in the county. Build the infrastructure up.
Time's up.
Time's up? That was quick.
1 minute.
So although I could formulate a decent question off of what I heard, I won't act like I know because I don't know the answer to that. I do know that businesses got Triple P funding. There was funding, and I know this from talking to the businesses in Calvert County. If another pandemic hits us and we have to do a shutdown, we have another shutdown in Calvert County, a lot of businesses are going to have to fold up. They're going to have to close their doors because they cannot get hit with this one more time from this pandemic. And let's just hope that the governor and the leadership in our state stand tall and do what they can to keep the doors open on businesses in our county and the state. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to bounce to Buddy. And we'll start off with a question. This is back to education and still in the budget taxpaying. Education is where a large portion of taxpayers' dollars is spent. What can we do to foster a relationship with the BOED new superintendent, as quality education is paramount to this county? People used to move here for schools, now they're moving out. How we hold the B&E and the superintendent accountable?
So 47% of every tax dollar that the county gets goes straight to education. This year, I think it's $140 million in the FY23 budget. That's a lot of money. But what we have learned in the recent years is giving them a check is about all the control we have over the Board of Education. That's why it is vitally important that everyone out there do your homework. We have 2 open seats this year in the Board of Education and 8 or 9 candidates running, that you do your homework and elect those people that share your values. Because we can withhold money, but at the end of the day, the children will pay the price, and I won't do that. So we've tried to work together with the Board of Education. It has not been an easy task to do. But over the last 4 years, we've given them about $12 million in new funding to cover initiatives, but Kerwin's coming with restrictions and requirements that we don't know for sure today what that's going to do, but we know we have to do it. So we've set up a work group to implement Kerwin, trying to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table and that we have a good plan moving forward. But education is expensive. We have a good system. It's not as good as it once was, according to the rankings, but we still have a good system, and it's our job to welcome the new superintendent and try to develop a working relationship with him to improve the situation in our schools today. Thank you.
Which way are you going, Jim? That way?
Yep.
So, to me, forming that relationship is imperative. With Blueprint Maryland coming down the pipe to us, and again, it being unknown funding at this time, we have to be able to communicate with the superintendent and his budget analyst. I actually sat in the county commissioners meeting, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I watched the correspondence back and forth between the superintendent, his budget analyst, and the commissioners. And from what I was told, that was the first time that had happened in several years. So it was encouraging to see that happen. And again, I think we definitely need to pay attention to the Board of Education elections and get the right people in there so that we can have a relationship and open communication with those people, and to be able to talk about important issues and be more transparent and have more parental input for our students. Thank you.
So I've done 7 budgets, and each of those 7 years, the Board of Ed has had a $10 million surplus. So this year when they came, the dialogue was they needed $20 million more. So we said, you need $20 million to balance? So they said, well, we're getting $11 million from the state. We need $9 million from you. And, we pushed back on that, which is our job. It is our job to question that you need $20 million more to balance. And with only in a minute, basically they came back with, well, we'll give up $5 million of that fund balance. We had to put that in the in our funding formula before. We had to put that in there as once they hit $5 million, they had to put that into the OPEB account. But it's like it's been said before, a working relationship is going to be crucial, because when Kerwin comes down, basically it's going to be like you receiving a bill, and they're going to just expect you just to pay that. And from past experience, I'm quite sure whatever bill we receive, they will ask for more monies on top of that. So it's going to be very important to have a good working relationship. Oh, I'm sorry.
Kerwin being another unfunded mandate by the state, the BOE needs to be held accountable. And to say there's no control, there is control. Every year for the past years and years, we've been funding well above maintenance of effort. To say that the children will suffer and pay the price, I think, is incorrect. If we fund at maintenance of effort every year, if there is a need from the board, they can take their case to the commissioners, and argue their case, and we can go back and forth and say yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. It's a game with them, with us. Actually, it's the unions that hold the children hostage. It's not the commissioners with the budget. So that was my ding.
No. Unless you're getting on the elevator.
Okay, go ahead.
So, one of the things I believe that we need to do is we definitely need a better working relationship. I cannot sit here and blame the BOE for all that, or the BOCC for that. It's both parties. One of the things that we definitely need to do is pay attention to, somebody said it a minute ago, we need to pay attention to the candidates that are running for the BOE. And I do this to the candidates that are here. There's one sitting here, Lisa Grennis over here. She's a great candidate. What I say to you is, we can't just say that we support them. What we need to do is, I want you to look at her campaign finance report, because on there it will show who donated. I donated to her campaign finances. She needs help. It costs money to win election, folks. But that's how we get a change with the Board of Education, in my opinion, is through the voting and the electoral process. Thank you.
Okay, so we were always 2 and 3 on the state level as far as our schools goes. We're number 11th right now. That is unacceptable. We do have a new superintendent starting July 1. So let's move forward with him and hope that communication levels gets better. We definitely need to take a look at the Board of Education elections and see who's running and make some right decisions. The other thing I would like to do is the Board of Education gets audited every year. So let's take a look at the audit and let's ask some questions. Thank you.
We have tried to work with the Board of Ed. The superintendent works for the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed works for you. Please vote for Board of Ed candidates that will listen to you, that will listen to more than 10 of you per month. I have been asking the Board of Ed to eliminate their 10-person limit since I've been in office, and they've refused to. They refuse to listen to the people that elected them. So please look at the people who are running, look at who will listen to more than 10 people, look who will listen to the people. I look forward to working with the new superintendent. There will be some change there. I hope he works out great. I hope he's a home run. But bottom line is, he's going to do the Board of Ed's bidding, not ours. He works for them. The Board of Ed has shut down free lunches moving forward. That's something that they need to answer for. Thank you.
Year after year, election after election, the Republican Central Committee has come to you and asked for candidates to run for the Board of Education. We had to go into critical condition with the pandemic and grandparents and parents becoming aware of what their children were learning and what their children weren't learning. We have some great conservative candidates this year. Lisa Grenis is one. She shows up for everything. You need to do your homework. You need to get 2 conservatives in there, and in 2 more years, as a conservative party, we need to push forward 2 more conservative candidates. You as parents, as grandparents, deserve to have a voice in your children's lives. We need to get back to basics. If we can have a wonderful relationship with the superintendent as opposed to what we have not had, that would be absolutely fabulous. But the Board of Education is critical, and I think everybody is finally seeing that. Thank you.
I moved here for the school system, just like most of the people here in this room. When the bus drivers went on strike, the Board of County Commissioners stepped up to the plate, came up with half the money, and met with them to get our kids back to school, so it wasn't a burden on our parents. It's against the law to hold back funding to a school system because they're not doing something that the Board of County Commissioners wants them to do. If you were to say, I'm not funding you because you won't have more than 10 public comments, we can get in a lot of trouble for that. And my theory on that, although I agree they should, in my 6 years, we never allowed 10 comments, ever. I don't know why they came up with that, but I don't agree with that. But, everybody should be able to come to the meeting and be heard. We now have our meetings so you can even call into the meetings if you can't make it. I want to concentrate in my next 4 years of looking out for the children in a special education. Commissioner Gadway mentioned the free lunches. I believe that was a program that the state did during COVID over the last 2 years, the free lunches. So, we just need to work with try to have a good relationship with the board. The Board of Ed has very little power. Thank you.
I think that we have to mandate, when we pay the taxes, when you all pay us taxes and we dole them out, then you have a mandate, you have a power of a mandate. You sit down with the BOE and the BOCC every 2 months. You have a meeting, you have strategy, you talk to them. They don't talk to anybody. The BOE is like, the empire. They don't want to sit down. I want to say one thing, so you parents know this. We must turn off the cell phones in the classrooms. They should not be on. The teachers are scared to death of the kids. They know that they are being filmed in the classroom. They know that if the teachers say to them, look, I would like you to put that away so that we can all learn at the same time and have some, responses here. They tell them to basically, F off. This is unconscionable. And the teachers are scared to death. So you're the parents and we're the grandparents, and we need to stand up for the children. Thank you.
So, you know who has the easiest job in the county? County attorney. You know who I want to have the toughest job in the county? County attorney. Right? We need to fight back against this stuff. There's ways to get around it. I've watched the nation, cities, fight back in sanctuary status. We're not enforcing that law. We're a sanctuary city. How about we be a sanctuary county? How about we make them work for it? How about we fight back a little bit? Right? Is there a criminal repercussion for not funding the budget at minimum level of effort? I'd like to find out. I would like to find out. Because the way we're going, we're not going to fix it. We've got 4 or 5 good candidates on the conservative side, the Republican side-ish, because they're bipartisan. They're going to split their vote. And the 2 Democrats that were organized to run are going to win. This is the problem. We don't fight. We don't fight. We got to fight. I'm ashamed to say that we don't fight. I've given money to the candidates too. But you know what? They're gonna split the vote because there's not that many Republican voters that are gonna look at those folks. There's just not that many. It's 27,000 to 24,000, and you're gonna have 2 more liberal candidates. Think about that.
It's time.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to switch around and go to Catherine Grasso, and we'll go in this direction. And, okay. You all have mentioned the talking point of school safety. What specifically will you do to ensure the safety of teachers and students aside from the school resources officers? My classroom has 2 glass windows and a glass door at the front of the school. My classroom door is wood and with a 2-foot glass window and grate. Safety.
Safety. Wow. And I thought I had an answer till I heard those 2 glass windows and those wooden doors. That is a problem, and that is something that we need to look into. That you can't wait for a disaster to happen and then say, oh, we should have, would have, could have done something. That needs to come to the attention of, I think, the Board of County Commissioners, and us work with our safety officers and make sure the schools are secure, most definitely. I'd like to see the DARE program back in the schools, in the high school system. SRO officers, definitely. I'd really like to know what leverage our SRO officers have within the schools. And quite frankly, are they prepared to shoot somebody who's going to harm our children and our grandchildren? Because that's what I want. Don't be in there just standing around. Shoot them. Thank you.
Can you please repeat the question?
Okay. Okay, the group has mentioned at talking points of school safety. What specifically will you do to ensure the safety of teachers and the students aside from the school resource officers? And it talks about the classroom with glass and wooden doors.
There's a lot of different safety aspects that schools need to address. Safety from within and safety from without. The safety from within can be addressed, as someone else mentioned, with cell phones. They're filming fighting going on in schools. They upload those films of fights. That's one major safety issue that we need to address in our schools. We've got to get back to basics. Outside influences, I had a parent or grandparent come to me recently and talk about how the kids are being taken outside during lunch to sit in the parking lot to eat lunch, because that way they can properly space due to COVID. In a parking lot where cars can come through and drive through the parking lot. A lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. We have to look at the entire big approach. Resource officers, I'm assuming that the resource officers are currently armed, and if not, they need to be. And there needs to be a resource officer in every school, basically to take care of business if something does happen. As she said.
Okay, so we do have call buttons at most of our schools. We do have camera technology. We need to increase the software to these camera systems. The software is changing monthly and yearly on these camera systems, so we need to keep updated on this technology. We need to support all tools and resources necessary for school safety. We do have coatings on some of our school windows now. Our resource officers are paramount to these schools. We need to add some more. Thank you.
One, Catherine, I didn't know you were such a killer down there, but now I know, so. All right, good to go. So first of all, the question was, what are we going to do with the classrooms? So there needs to be an assessment at each and every school in every single classroom. There's a couple things we could do financially in the short term, which would be we could put one-way tape on the glass so that you can only see out and not see in. I would recommend bulletproof glass. That's very costly, right? But I said this earlier, what is the cost for your children and for our kids in Calvert County? Secondly, we talked about wooden doors. Bullets go through wood, but they also go through walls. Look, we can't bulletproof everything. But what I'm going to tell you is, I told you about putting glass up. If I'm in a shooting and I put this up, believe it or not, the person shooting at me is going to do everything they can do to shoot around that. As crazy as that sounds, it's just natural instinct that that's what somebody's going to do. So in short, there needs to be an assessment of each school, every inch, by the appropriate people to make it the safest place it can be. Thank you.
My, how we have progressed as a society to get to this point. Do we want to make our schools built and look like prisons for our children? Or do we want them to be as the way they were when we were children? You know, open air and safe. And they were safe. But what we also have done is each individual has their own personal empowerment, but most have relinquished that power, that empowerment. You know, every teacher, every adult that is in a school system has the power within them to prevent these things. You know, they can take courses, they can take self-training in firearm usage and carry concealed weapons. It's not a bad thing to be protective of children in a way that if some crazy nut wants to come in there, at least they'll know. If there's going to be training with SRO officers doing, you know, schools training like that, why not to get the teachers involved or those who are the ones who are going to be active in such a situation and get them trained as well in such an activity? It's not difficult.
So when this first got addressed, I'm going to go back maybe about 6 years ago, we sat with the state police, sheriff's department, superintendent, board of ed, BOCC, and we talked about this. Each school's a little different. Some of them were built with an open atmosphere concept. Some were different. Tucson High School was like the last one to get adjusted because the way the cafeteria was built. So each one had to be done differently. But there's some things, and I know this, it sounds just talk, some things cannot be talked about because some of these safety measures that are in place are just not for the public. But it's an active thing that has been being worked on for the last 6 years, and in fact, we have a request out to the brand-new superintendent that we want to sit down and continue these safety measures. We want their input back, what we have put into place already, what they feel they need. The initial start was $4 million to get it started. It's not a finished project by no means as it keeps evolving, but with this new superintendent, we'll see what he brings to the table, but we know that we need to keep increasing safety.
The sheriff's office has worked with the school system and also within county government. They do a lot of active shooter training. During those trainings, they do evaluations and say what could be done differently, what could make this classroom safer, from being able to lock doors to, as somebody mentioned earlier, they're laminating glass, they're putting a coating over glass, which helps, you know, repel bullets. I don't know of one active shooter situation in this country where there's been a black and white police car sitting out in front of that school because they don't want to be met with resistance. They want to go in, they want to do as much damage as they can with no resistance. thus the importance of putting these SROs in every single school in our county. I mean, it is extremely important. And DARE officers, they drive these black and white police cars as well. So if you had DARE officers back in the schools, and those police cars would be there as well, and that would be something that somebody that wants to go in and cause a bunch of damage would not want to be met with that resistance. So I think the safety of our children is paramount without a doubt, and we could do those evaluations and improve things. Thank you.
So I support officers in schools. The school board has allowed those officers in those buildings. We used to have more officers in the schools than we do today. The officers could do drive-throughs at the parking lot. We have 170 sworn deputies in Calvert County today. There's no reason why road patrol guys can't ride through those school parking lots once in a while, even if the schools won't let them inside the building. But we've heard a lot of things. We don't want to turn our schools into prisons, and I understand your concern based on what you hear is going on out here in the world today. But it's a mental health issue also. Nobody's talked about that. But kids today with social media are in a different world than we were when we went to school. And they settle their issues with violence. And there are a lot of different factors that come into play with that. And I don't have time to go into all those, but I think we need to work with a new superintendent and get some officers in these schools and work on safety programs. I hear they're doing an analysis right now of all the schools, and I'm sure they'll come up with a plan, and they'll be begging for $10 million from the Board of County Commissioners to fix it.
Good point. So number 2 on my platform is the mental health of kids. We locked them down for a year and a half. A lot of kids are isolated. A lot of kids that are school shooters are lonely or confused or whatever their mental health condition, but I don't think you take a perfectly normal kid and he becomes a school shooter. It's someone that has problems, and we don't address it. Everyone's mentioned this phone. If you don't raise your kids, your phone will, and the people behind this phone are bad actors. Trust me. But I think the second part is I don't think it's a bad idea to at least have school resource officers at every school. And exactly right. These scared little school shooters, they don't want to meet resistance. They want to feel powerful. So I think we need to address that, because we're not going to solve the mental health crisis overnight, but we could, in short order, get a school resource officer at every school beginning of the fall. Fair assessment? Thank you.
I'd love to see the DARE program back in the schools. When my kids were growing up, they went to school, there was a DARE program, and they thought they had, a Hollywood star in the school. The DARE guys that were there working and looking after them and making sure they respected authority. I want to tell you this, I want to share this, and that is that in our classrooms today, with the cell phones on, they do not have to put their cell phones, turn them off and put them in the backpack or the book bag or whatever. They are sexting and texting in the classroom, and they are also meeting in the bathrooms. They all, 5 or 10 of them in different classrooms, get up and go into the bathrooms, and then they find out where the drug parties are for the weekend and where they can all hook up. This is unconscionable to me. This is not what Calvert County was 15 years ago. Thank you.
When I was on the Board of Ed, we had a film put on all the front doors and the front windows that are smash resistant, and if you were to shoot a gun, it would take 5 or 6 times to even create a hole. That could be put on the surrounding windows of the schools. I had talked about putting fencing around schools where there's a wooded area, would help stop people from being able to, say, shoot from the woods type of thing. And as commissioners, we built a new communication towers. When we had a kid in Calvert High School that brought a gun to school, the officers went into the school and they could not communicate with each other. They lost all their cell phone reception, so we had that put in. Everything's about money, so everything costs a lot of money. When this happened in St. Mary's County, me and my wife started a group called Keep Calvert Schools Safe. We put together the largest actor-shooter training at Chesapeake Church. We had over 700 people there. We had the state police and the sheriff's department putting on the training. That was a very good turnout. We just need to continue to work with the Board of Ed, because they're the one that will make the final decision. Thank you.
So we're going to move to Todd, Ireland, and we'll go in that direction around. And we're going to do this again. Why don't you reach out to the Calvert County State Delegation, often that fights for the parental rights and curriculum transparency. Also, there's known that the COMAR is not law according to the constitutional lawyers in the state of Maryland. You start saving schools from indoctrination and children getting back to basics. Improve the education system. Stop giving in to the federal political payoffs. You got $11 million, the school did, okay? For what? Sending the kids home, putting masks on them, and vaccinating. It's up to you to fight, not just us. And it starts with Todd.
So what's the question? No, I mean, I'm serious. It was.
Are you willing to fight?
Okay, so,
I mean,
I guess the very first part of that, would I work with our legislators and delegation to try to change our school curriculum at that level so that it is more transparent and parents can be more involved and we're able to monitor what our students are being taught? Absolutely. Yes, I will do that. I don't know where to take it from there.
Next.
Okay,
That's good.
thanks.
This way?
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm friends with both Mark Fisher and Kevin Marilat, who are both running for representative. And I can talk to them anytime I have their cell phone numbers. If Al Larson over here wins, we'd certainly seen him enough on the campaign trail. We can pick up the call and pick up the phone and give him a call. But listen, the state, even the state representatives are facing headwinds because there's a supermajority of people who don't have your best interest at heart. Calvert County's really the Bible Belt of Maryland. It's just more churches here than per capita than anywhere else. You know, we have a different feel here. You know, we participate at school. I go with my wife to the school meetings. You know, that's pretty rare. Some place in PG County, they never see a parent. This is different. This is different. And I want to protect this. And in order to protect this, we have to fight back. And we have to fight back creatively in some cases. And it may take the attorney, it may take just advocacy. And I'm willing to do that every day.
I think we have to work hard with our delegates. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why is because we are a small county. We're the little baby county. And even though we're a wealthy county, we don't carry a lot of respect up there because all you need to do is have PG, Montgomery, and Baltimore City, and they are the control of the election process. So we have to make ourselves known of what we will tolerate and what we need and what we desire down here. Our children come first and foremost because it's our children and our children's children who are yet to come. And I believe that we can have a say down here because we're really an educated populace. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll continue to work with the delegation. When they're in session, they come to us all the time, and we write letters. They'll send us letters, and we'll sign them in support of certain bills that they're trying to get passed up in Annapolis. So for the last 4 years, we've worked with the delegation regularly. Thank you.
If you watched any of session this past year, you saw Mark Fisher, who is a tremendous advocate for the citizens of Calvert County. He has the nickname Honey Badger. He fights and he fights and he fights and he puts bills in. And he's fighting a extremely liberal legislature. We don't have the votes. So what do? We fight in this county. The BOCC fights for you. We brought parents together when the kids were out of school and the mask mandates were going on and so on and so forth. We supported parents. We banded together. We rallied. We fought for what we wanted for the children. We didn't get everything we wanted, but it's a start. We have to fight for our children to get back to the basics and to have the childhood they deserve.
A couple years ago, when I started looking at running for commissioner, I looked up quite a bit of information. One of those things that popped in my head is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The first and the last, pretty self-explanatory. The middle word, I wasn't really sure on, liberty. So on the back of my business cards, I had the word liberty printed. It's a noun. The state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. Period. Full stop. We all learned a lesson. Our county health officer was given supreme powers by our state. That cannot happen. If it does happen, we have to fight against it. I communicate with our state legislators on a weekly basis, multiple times a week, in fact. I communicate with the Republican legislators and one Democrat legislator. He's a great guy. He was willing to talk. We have to communicate. We have to work. No to mandates, no to church closings, and no to school closings. Thank you.
Yes, and I will fight for this. Let's have that conversation with our delegates. And let's take it one step farther, not only with our schools and our children, but these COMAR regulations apply to our sewers also. A lot of you wouldn't have holding tanks if our delegation would fight for us. Thank you.
In short, yes. Jim, I think what you said was a constitutional attorney, right? Is that what you said? So there's a difference, not a difference in law. The law is the law, but interpretation of the law is different. And I think what happens in Calvert County is I've had the pleasure to talk to some of the constitutional attorneys. And they have great ideas, but sometimes it conflicts with what the county attorney's saying. So sometimes there's a difference of opinion. The question led to, will I work with delegation? Absolutely, to do the right thing for the citizens of this county. Thank you.
I'd work with the delegates, but it's an uphill battle. There's way too many interests and hands in the pie up in Annapolis for them to even want to even listen to us. I would say, parents, if you can, homeschool. Send your child to a parochial school, if you can. And that's the one way to send a serious message to the school system. Wait a minute, we're going to lose funding. If we don't change our ways, we're going to lose funding. And people don't move here to Calvert County just for the schools and the rural nature of us. They move to escape the moral decline and degeneracy of the area in which they are leaving. They see Calvert as a refuge, as a sanctuary from those declines. So to make the changes, you have to force their hand by taking away their funding by way of homeschooling or parochial schooling, if you are able.
So the state lifted the mask mandate. My child was in 7th grade. The BOE was not going to lift the mandate. So I went to the meeting and I said, look, the state lifted the mandate. You have to adhere to that because you do not have a local policy in place. Since you do not have a local policy in place, you must adhere to that. With that pressure, with parents' pressure, Delegate Fisher, if anybody's ever met him, with his pressure and the delegation, they said, okay, well, fine, we'll go Monday. No, it's lifted now. So we walked out of that room thinking that it was lifted. I get a phone call over the weekend that our basketball games, Parks and Recs basketball, even though they were on the school system property, they were being told they had to wear masks. So that was a phone call back to the superintendent and say, hey, come on, stop this. Stop this. You know it's over. Let it go. And that's what happened. And that's back to relationships, but they also know you have a line in the sand. We followed the law, but we're holding them to follow the law as well.
Thank you. Okay, so I gotta turn this around, and we're gonna go to Patrick. And the first question that we have, the next is moving back into building and everything else. So the current Calvert County Comprehensive Policy was reviewed and officially reconfirmed in 2004, 2010 comprehensive plans. However, all mention of the build-out was dropped without explanation from the 2019 comprehensive plan. In your view, should the comprehensive plan be amended to reinstate the policy of limiting residential build-out, or do you support the 2019 decision to drop the policy? And it starts, Mr. Flannery.
Yes, I would say it needs to be reinstituted. Anything that is changed without explanation means that there's some subterfuge going on around to try and sneak the issues past, the citizens of the county. So I would say reinstitute it, and if any change needed was in the future, well, then another commission could be formed to revisit those and look at everything else all over again to justify any changes. There you go.
So yes, I want to redo the comp plan. If you watched our meeting today, we actually addressed that. We're working now to change the adequate public facilities. It's antiquated. Our infrastructure isn't up for it. The way the studies were done, they weren't done the way that the will of the people wanted. They were done basically a generic approach that, well, if it was done like this in Northern Virginia, or it was done like that over here, we took the same approach there. So we discussed that in great detail today if you watched that, but no, that plan needs to be redone and it needs tailor-made to the way of life that we want to live.
So I actually attended the county commissioners meeting today, and they talked about the town centers, and some boundaries were changed on the town centers. Phase 2 was modified, taken out, and there was parts of Phase 2 that were changed as well, that weren't incorporated back into Phase 1. The comprehensive plan actually calls for vibrant town centers where people can walk to go shopping, and as far as I'm concerned, what I've seen in Calvert County in our town centers, we haven't met that obligation at all. We have strip malls pretty much everywhere, shopping centers, but I mean, as far as walking from a residential area to a place to go eat without crossing Route 4, I don't think we've met that goal for the comp plan, and I think it definitely needs to be revisited. The residential build out part of that, I think we need to be careful, and definitely, like I said in the beginning, we need to evaluate our infrastructure. We're already behind the ball on our roadways, and we definitely need to upgrade some roadways and upgrade some infrastructure before we continue to develop. Thank you.
So the cap was in the previous comprehensive plans. That cap was purely a swag, an educated guess. Because until you actually take a piece of property and determine, based on the zoning that's in place, the topography of that property, you really don't know what the allowed density is going to be. What is important is the density that's allowed through zoning. It's not the cap. It's the density that's allowed through the zoning that determines what the cap is. So the cap made people feel good. I liked seeing it in there. I always felt like, we got a cap, we're not going to go over that. That's not necessarily true, because they've changed zoning through the years, and that density switches and moves around, and the cap was just a floating number that one day we weren't actually going to say we got to 34,500 houses, whatever that number was, and that's it, no more. That wasn't going to happen. It's the density that's zoned through the process that determines the cap. And support for everybody to understand that, tough decisions have to be made to keep that in place. It causes, and nobody likes to hear, but it does cause our housing to be more expensive because of the caps and the density that we have in place. And people want affordable housing. The only place they can really do that is in town centers, where they can have high density, going 2 or 3 stories high. People recently, with the projects that have happened in Prince Frederick and a proposed project in Lusby, don't appear to want to see that. So we have a dilemma. How do we figure out how we provide affordable housing for our workforce and our children, and at the same time protect the capacity of this county and its rural character at the same time? Thank you.
Yeah, so the comprehensive plan, I don't know if that's one person's vision or the citizen's vision, but walking in a town center from store to store, that's not what Calvert County is. That's the National Harbor. That's not Calvert County. Like, who came up with that plan? Maybe Myers' lawsuit might work. I don't know. Well, you learn a lot here in the candidate forums, because Meyer brought the same point up. Who approved the plan? The thing that I look at is we have plenty of professionals here in this county, teachers and nurses and firemen and everybody. And I think everybody would like a single-family house to live in. I don't know they want to live in a high-density apartment building. Maybe that's what you want to do if you're single, but when you have a family, you probably want to have a house. And single-family housing is becoming incredibly expensive. That's why the developers choose the multifamily housing, because it costs so much to do one unit. So they can spread that cost over 6 or 8 or 14 units is now the limit. It was 24 just 2 months ago, but because we bring up this stuff at these forums, now all of a sudden we're down to 14. That's awesome. Okay, I'll continue to lobby for it. We should have a focus on single-family housing, because that's Calvert County. And I live in an idyllic setting in Huntingtown.
That's time.
All right, thank you.
I have 100 pages of backroom meeting minutes between SPIG, which is a small business interest group, and the administration, our administration in this county. And it was the sellout of our county. I had to get the information from a Freedom of Information request, because everybody said there are no minutes. There are no minutes taken at the meetings. Well, I was there at the meeting, a couple of them, and I saw them taking minutes. And what happened, I'm going to tell you what happened. The administration, the people got tied in with these high rollers that they think are high roller builder developers. And they got involved with our local builders. It's 4 of them. 4 local builder developers, 2 engineers, 1 attorney, 1 county attorney, and 1 commissioner, county commissioner, that were going to make immediate money off of the build-out. Thank you.
Kelly.
That group that she speaks of was the previous board. It had nothing to do with this board, just to make that clear. The comp plan is just a visionary document. It's nothing until you do the zoning. So it doesn't change the value or the uses on any piece of property in the county. So the comprehensive plan does not change that. I know the county over the past board had close to 100 public meetings on the comprehensive plan. The previous board didn't get it done. This board hasn't gotten it done. I don't feel hopeful the next board will probably get it done. So, like I said, the zoning hasn't changed since the late 80s. So everything that you see going on was done a long time ago. That's been in the works for a long time. This board and the previous board is not responsible for all this traffic and apartments you see, none of that. We have not approved any of that stuff. Thank you.
The comp plan needs to be pulled back. The comp plan was approved against the will of the people who attended all of those meetings. We don't have the infrastructure for this. With everything that's coming down the road, do we have the budget for this type of build-out? We are 30-some miles long, 9 miles at our widest, 4 miles at our narrowest, 4-point-something, 9-point-something. This is not doable. This is not what Calvert County wants. Give it back to the people.
I believe that the original number that somebody dreamt up a while back, as Buddy Commissioner President Hand said, was somebody was a swag, was 37,000. Just this morning I asked how many residences we are at. It's roughly 32,000. When they came up with that 30,000, the population was half of what it is today. That was a long time ago, as Commissioner McConkey said. I don't know where we're going to put another 5,000 residences while maintaining the rural county of the character. I don't know that we can. But I will say that that comprehensive plan seems to be a living document. And while I agreed with Commissioner Conkey a moment ago on that, I have to disagree with him on it's not our responsibility. We may not have brought us to this point, but it's our responsibility to fix it. And we will fix it, and we will do it right. Thank you.
Yes, I believe we do need to revisit the comprehensive plan, but we need to take something into consideration. All of our town centers are not the same. They're unique in each and every way. Solomon's is different from Dunkirk, so we need to look at each and every one and see what fits in each and every one. Thank you.
So how did we get and start building in the town centers? Years ago, people were building in rural Calvert County in the countryside, and the citizens of the county didn't want that anymore. So the county started directing their efforts towards the town centers. The one thing that I agree with, and that I think most people agree with, I don't like to see apartments in our county. I just don't. And that's just from human experience with dealing with apartment complexes across the state of Maryland. I have learned something recently. We definitely need to focus on infrastructure before growth. Without a doubt, we have a failing infrastructure in this county. There's one way to control growth. We haven't ever done it, and that's with limited building permits for Calvert County. When we hit the cap, it stops. If we're halfway through the year and we've hit the cap, that's the end of it. We can then control and know how many homes, how many things are built, and about how many people will be living in this county 5, 10, or 30 years from now. Thank you.
Okay. So Calvert, I got a couple more quick ones after this one. Calvert Cliffs permits to operate expires in 2035. It produces 38% of the Maryland electricity. What are the plans for updating or replacing it? Do we support continuing that plan?
What?
And, sorry, we're starting with Paul Harrison.
So I hope to still be alive in 2035. I don't know, that's a long ways off. You know, I'm going to draw a parallel with Dominion Cove Point, because I brought this up in public meetings. But we didn't use our local authority to put any conditions on the Dominion plan. And there are no conditions really on the nuclear plan. We say, well, that's a federal issue. It's a nuclear regulatory agency. Maybe. But maybe the commissioners need to be involved too and consider those houses that are close. There are 250 houses that are adjacent to the Dominion property, now Berkshire Hathaway. And they can hear at about 70 decibels at 1,000 feet the whining of the turbines, because there's a 140 megawatt generator that powers those chillers. Anybody know that? Like it's like a dirty secret. Like people that live there, they can hear it all the time. Probably think they're going crazy. That might be the mental illness. We could solve that right there. But listen, there's a lot of things that we need to do here. Planning out to 2035 is probably not the best stretch. We're definitely going to need power because everybody's going to be driving Teslas, because that's what the federal government wants you to do. But we don't have the infrastructure for that. So think about that.
Well, first of all, you have to understand how BG&E got here, or Exelon. And it was Louis Goldstein's property, and he was our comptroller for years. So that's how we got BG&E. They wanted it put up in Montgomery County, and Montgomery County said, no, time out, no. So we got BG&E down here, and it brought us into a new generation. And what happened is Senator Fowler would say, we were the poorest county in Maryland, and then we were like, we were at the top of the list as being wealthy. And that's what happened. So BG&E was only supposed to be online for 20 years because they didn't know how long nuclear power could even last. But we do have to have these two utilities now for the sake of our budget, for the sake of our income. That's what we need to do, and we need to make certain that we are on top of everything that they're doing. We need to know exactly what they're doing all the time. Thanks.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Okay. Calvert Cliffs permit is to operate, will be expiring in 2035. It produces 38% of Maryland electricity. What are the plans for updating or replacing the plant, and do you support continuing the plan?
That's a good question. We'll have to continue to work with them. That's all I can tell you. I mean, that's all.
I support continuing the plant, but also I think we're going to have to work with them. That's very, very far ranged, and although I operate very strategically, we need to sit down and figure out the next few years before we jump ahead to 2035.
If I understand the question correctly, there's 2 reactors. One, I believe, is going to come up for recertification in 2032. I might be wrong on those dates. The other, 2035. Both those reactors, when they come up for recertification, will, if they're recertified, and there's every reason to believe they will be recertified, those will be the oldest reactors in the country. I went to the Nuclear Regulatory Power meeting at MACO last fall, and I asked about the 3rd reactor that was approved that has yet to be built. They said that it's probably not going to be built. That's where I learned the basic of when they're going to be recertified. There's no reason to think they're not. It's the cleanest energy out there. Once they're recertified, I believe that's for another 15 to 20 years beyond those 2 dates.
So as Commissioner Gadway did say, they had plans to build a new one right beside the current one, and that fell by the wayside because of regulations, money, and so forth. But let's start the talks early and soon so that we won't lose this. Thank you.
So 2035 is a long ways off, and having to deal with other major corporations in the county, I can tell you they're not going to sit down and negotiate anything today. I promise you that. But with that said, we need both of those companies, Dominion or Berkshire, and the new plant for their tax base for sure. It's a huge tax relief for the citizens of this county. It has a positive impact on everyone in this room. And when you get your tax bill every year, it's lower because of those 2 places. Thank you.
2035 is 13 years from now, but I'm pretty sure most likely permits will be extended, renewed, you know, and the plant will be retrofitted once again as it was in the past. Yeah, it's pretty much a no-brainer the way this administration going in the country and in the world with green energy. Nuclear being the greenest energy there is, aside from some accidents like at Fukushima, you know, and we haven't had any problems here that I know of.
No.
Oh, good. So I don't, I don't foresee a problem with funding tax revenue from the power plant at all in that regard, because it's not going to go anywhere. They're not even building any new reactor, any new plants in the country at the moment. I believe maybe there's one more, but the ones we have, I don't think they'll be shutting down, especially since they're so profitable at the moment.
So absolutely, I support the nuclear power plant. It was vital to the school system back when I was a child, and it's evident even through now. Not just the tax revenue it brings, the jobs it provides, they're high-paying jobs, benefits, the monies that they donate to the colleges, the impact to the community is really immeasurable, and we will work hard to maintain that great relationship we have with them, and I don't foresee any problems with them in the future, even into 2035.
So again, we have to continue to work with the officials at Calvert Cliffs to see what the future does hold for them. Are they going to expand? We don't know, but it is very important, not only for the tax base, but the workforce of Calvert County. I don't know the exact number of employees that the new plant sustains right now, but I know it's significant. I have a lot of friends and family members that actually work there, so it's definitely an integral part to Calvert County. It needs to we need to maintain that relationship. Thank you.
So as was stated, the nuclear power plant, when it was built and opened, took us from the worst school system in the state of Maryland to the best. It's plain and simple. They've been a great partner, provided great jobs for our citizens. We've had no issues. We've always supported them. Since I've been on the board the last 3 years, they don't ask for much. We don't hear much out of them. I'm told that it's almost a 10-year process to get recertified. So they'll be making a decision pretty soon if they're going to go for recertification, as was told. If they do get recertified, they'll be the oldest nuclear power plant in the country, which will be quite an achievement. I understand there could be some activity going in there for future changes, but we'll have to see what that bears. But we certainly support them, as was stated, not just for the tax revenue. There are over 800 jobs down there on a full-time basis. And every time they have an outage for a month, that number triples. So it's a significant partner in Calvert County, and we will do everything we can to help and support them.
So we should be doing closing arguments now. Arguments, sorry. I'm thinking about something, right?
What are we in court for?
So closing statements, but there's 2 things that I have here that just could be answered in your closing statements, okay? One of them is, who is for Calvert County in building new homes and new development? And the other one is, does anybody have contracts with Calvert County government or Board of Education currently or in the past? So just add that to your closing statements.
The last one, contract with it?
Contracts.
Can you elaborate on that,
Don't know.
The work relationship contract?
Any contracts, I guess working contracts, business contracts?
What was the first?
The first one, who is for expanding Calvert County and building new homes and development? So those two add to your close. And we'll start, yep.
Since I got on the board, we established a Veterans Commission to provide more resources to our veterans. We were the last county in Maryland to establish this Veterans Commission. We just approved the Police Accountability Board today. We continue to preserve land, concentrate our growth in the town centers. We built new parks. We just built a new Ward Park in Dunkirk. We built a brand-new playground in Dunkirk for the kids at Dunkirk Park. We're going to be building a turf field down in Lusby area, and we continue to upgrade the tennis courts in Dunkirk and all the amenities for not just the kids but for the adults also. We built a new Prince Frederick Firehouse to meet the demands of what they had. I'm committed to building a new Solomons and a St. Leonard Firehouse. We built a new public safeties communication system in the county. We also passed a harsh weather protection laws for animals, protecting our animals. I'll continue to support and work with the Board of Education to fund our schools. In the past, I used to have the Calvert County tree cutting contract for about 10 years. And I walked away from that contract when I became elected as county commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no contracts within the county. I am not for overdevelopment. I am for taking a pause on development. I am also for evaluating how we're going to move forward. We don't have the infrastructure to support all that we are doing. We need to take what our citizens want into consideration, and then we need to proceed strategically. I'm a lifelong Republican. I offer authentic, independent, and conservative leadership. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. Integrity goes to the core of who I am. My name is Catherine Grasso, and I'd be honored to earn your vote on July 19th. And thank all of you for being here and giving us this opportunity to meet you. Thank you.
After the last meeting, we went to a forum. There was a handful of people there. I'm really excited to see so many people come out tonight. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Republican Central Committee, for hosting these events. In answer to the quick questions, I have no current contracts. I did have, for about a decade, worked with the wonderful guys down at Public Works and County Highway, doing snowplow with one truck. Owner-operator, went in, plowed during the snow, had fun doing it. And I appreciate that, but I did give that up when I stepped in, as it would be a conflict of interest. I'm against high density. If anybody doesn't know yet, I'm against high density residential development. I am here to work. I'm here to work for you. Over the last 11 months, I have read every proposal. I've read and listened to every comment that anyone has made. I've asked questions where things didn't make common sense. All of that before making any decisions. My job is to represent you every day. My phone number is 301-518-2090. It's on the side of my truck. It's published on my website. It's published on my Facebook page. I answer every call. If I hit the button and say I'll call you back, I mean it. It's because I'm on another call. In closing, I would like to take this opportunity, as this is the last formal forum. I would like to thank my wonderful wife, Julie, my kids, and my grandson for supporting me and understanding the time that I've been away from them over the last few months. It's been a lot. I ask for your support by your vote between now and the 19th. Thank you.
Okay, so for the two questions, yes, I support smart growth. Number two, yes, I do hold 2 grass cutting contracts, and if elected, I will give the 2 contracts up. So I want to thank you for having us here tonight. We've had many forums. We've had many great questions from the citizens, such as growth, traffic, schools, and sewers. We did not touch on some other concerns, such as the new office complex, the community center, the 2 fire stations that need to be built. The next board will have many challenges to tackle. It is my goal to bring the next board together as a team. Understand this team has no I's in it or no U's in it. It's a team. We must rise above and put our differences aside. We must listen to the citizens. We must listen to the consultants. We need to educate ourselves and to even bring some science into this, to the table. So let's work towards a solution that is best fits the citizens of Calvert County. I want to thank all of my supporters for the donations, phone calls, emails. It's been overwhelming. It will be an honor to work for you for the next 4 years, and I will humbly ask you for your vote in July. Thank you.
So to start with development, Jim, I don't think anyone at this table will disagree that the primary thing we need to look at in our county, growth is at 0.5%, maybe a little more under the next 10 years, but that's the numbers we're getting from the county. I believe that the roadways and traffic in Calvert County is paramount to what you're talking about growth. And I think that that has to come before, and working on infrastructure has to come before growth. However, I am for growth, especially when it comes to our young people in Calvert County that are looking to stay in Calvert County. As far as contracts goes, I don't know if this is applicable, but I'm a contract employee for Calvert County. So I don't know if that is what the question was asking for or not. So what do you get from me if you vote for me? Listen, I've been a public servant for Calvert County for 34 years. And I have been on call day and night. My phone rings 24/7. Sue will tell you it's nothing for my phone to ring at 3 o'clock in the morning because somebody needs something done, or they need me to leave the house to do something. My last day as a police officer will be my first day as a commissioner. I will dedicate 100% of my time to the citizens of Calvert County, and I will do my very best to make this better than when I found it. I believe it's everyone's responsibility to leave things a little bit better than we found it. I want to thank you, everyone here, for being here, everyone watching, and I also want to thank all the candidates. We've had our differences. We didn't always agree. We bumped heads a few times. But I do believe in my heart, folks, that everybody up here is truly trying to do the right thing and trying to make this a better county. So I thank all of you, all candidates, and thank you for being here tonight. Thank you all.
You're here. Kind of messed up my written thing here. But I promote the small family business, small family homes on small lots, as opposed to apartment complexes and stuff. And I know I do not have any contracts with the county or the BOE. We are at a turning point, a crossroads. And I say what I mean and mean what I say. I call out what needs to be called out, and I question what needs to be questioned. I believe there are 2 genders, man and woman, 2 sexes, male and female. I believe there is one race, the human race, that all should be treated with dignity and respect. I believe moral corruption and decadence is being forced upon our children, corrupting their minds and thoughts against the wishes of parents, tolerated or encouraged by the BOE. I believe teachers should teach, remain unbiased, neutral, silent, impartial, and apolitical regarding anything of their own personal lives, thoughts, or others, sexual nature, proclivities, or politics. The purview of parents. Exposure to or the promotion of abnormal behaviors must not be taught or forced upon them at a developmental age in their lives. We can teach our children to love and respect everyone equally. I believe commissioners have the responsibility and the duty to do what they can to rein in out of control, unresponsive, unsympathetic school system. The Maryland Constitution guarantees children a free education, not an indoctrination. I believe in our constitutional Republican form of government where the rights, freedoms, and liberties of the individual are protected. I am not obligated to any group or union. I have not sought out or accepted any endorsements. I am beholden only to the people of Calvert County. You and your concerns are where my loyalties lay. You know where I stand on the issues. I am Patrick E. Flaherty, and I ask for your vote July 19th. Thank you.
Also want to thank everyone for putting this on, all the forums and getting them on TV. It's really helped to try to get it out there. In the past, we'd do a forum and probably the only people see it was just a few people in the room. So I want to thank everyone for that. I don't have any contracts in the past or in the future. I think everybody knows I'm against high density as well. I do believe in the single family home and the American dream of owning a home. I've had the pleasure, the privilege of being your commissioner for the last 8 years. When I came on the board, we had $8 million deficit. I didn't vote to raise your taxes then. When COVID hit, we were told we could see a 30% reduction in income tax. At the time, we were receiving $97 million a year. That was almost a $30 million hit. Wasn't my go-to then either. When the state took away teacher pensions, highway user fees, it's not my go-to either. I'm a business person, everyone knows that. And in business, problems come. You solve them, you work to solve them, you work with the people there. The smartest business guy in the world is the guy that knows what he doesn't do well and brings somebody in that does. And that's what we've tried to do. I commit to you, I'm not going to raise taxes. I always work to try to find a solution, live within our means, and also keep our quality of life. That is so paramount. Why we are here is how it is today. In fact, I always say it's a little too fast for me. I kind of like it back when I was a kid a little bit more, but I vow to you to try to make everything I can to maintain our rural character and our way of life. I'm Mike Hart, and I appreciate your support in the upcoming election. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting this forum, and thank you for watching. We need to control our growth. There's no doubt about that. I think the biggest challenge we're going to have with that, there's two of them. One is entry-level housing, and the other one is our infrastructure. Again, we have to catch up with that infrastructure before we continue. I have no contracts with the county. Common theme tonight seemed to be school safety. That's what most people seem to be concerned about. Our schools, our children, and their safety, and that's one of my priorities throughout my campaign and has been since the word go. I will prioritize trying to get that working relationship with the members of the Board of Education so that we can continue to ensure that we have transparency with our curriculum and to keep our children safe. Public safety in general is imperative. We live in the safest county in the state of Maryland, as I said in the beginning, and we need to keep it that way. In entry-level housing, when I'm talking about entry-level housing, I'm talking about your police officer, I'm talking about your nurse, I'm talking about, you know, these people that need to go into somewhere to be able to afford a house. By the time you throw in a person buying a lot, a building permit, all the engineering associated with it, an impact fee, it's extremely costly, and that's something that we definitely need to work on in order to keep our kids here in this county once they grow up. I appreciate your vote on July 19th. If you vote on the primary for me, when early voting is the 7th through the 14th, so you can vote then as well. Thank you.
So first of all, I want to thank the Republican Central Committee for hosting the past 3 debates, and want to thank county staff for doing the video work to make sure people that couldn't attend in person have an opportunity to see these debates so they can make informed decisions. I ran 4 years ago about growth. You'll hear that our growth rate is only 0.5%. Well, look at what that looks like recently, and most people aren't very happy with what that 0.5% looks like. So we have worked this current board trying to change that, and my only contract is with all of you. My contract with you is to listen and to represent you and your views and what you want to see Calvert County to be. And I think I've done that. If you've reached out to me in the last 4 years, I respond. I answer your questions. I get you responses. I make sure that you feel connected. We've been as transparent as any county in this state when it came to setting up the Police Accountability Board. We did that intentionally because it's your board. It's not ours. It's your citizens' board for the police service in this county. So we tried to do that as transparent as we could. So if we're doing cliches tonight, I guess mine is I say what I do and I do what I say. I think I've been very honest the last 4 years. Some people don't like that, some people do. But I'm going to be honest with you. Even if I think you don't like the answer, I'm going to tell you the truth every single time. I'm not going to tell you what you think you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth. And I vote the way you all feel. And if you look at my record, I will stand on my record. I've been in the minority a lot of times on votes on that board, and I don't care. I'm going to vote my heart and vote what you all feel. So I ask Buddy Hance, running that large commissioner, that whenever you vote, whether you vote early from the 7th to the 14th or you vote on July the 19th, that you and your family and friends all vote for Buddy Hance, at large commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have no conflicts, contracts, anything with the county. Most of my money is invested in debt, as I'm sure most of you are. The mortgage holder, if the mortgage holder pulls my card, I guess I'll be in trouble. But there are issues here that require a degree of vision, a degree of sophistication. You know, dealing with a nuclear plant or pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes, which really was a discount in lieu of taxes, a 42% discount to property taxes. Berkshire Hathaway in FY23 will pay us over $62 million. That's a lot of money. You know, this isn't Jim and Bob having a handshake. This is real money. Real money. And if they don't pay that money, you pay that money. So that's what you have to think about. Are you ready to pay more money? Or do you want someone on the board that can add a degree of expertise in accounting and finance and business relationships, contracts, negotiations? That's what I do every day. I'm pretty good at it. I have 8 perfect federal audits. I don't like to toot my own horn, but that's something I'll get because I don't get it from my work. So I'd like to ask for your vote in July. Like Pat said earlier, he said vote early and vote often. The Democrats do. That was hilarious. There's good people here. Listen, everybody's a good person up here. There's no knuckleheads, trust me. Everybody has a different plan on how they want to make Calvert better or keep Calvert the same or whatever. I think the community spirit that Calvert County has, I think it's just awesome. My neighborhood, your neighborhood, people you live next to, everybody. I think it's great. They stop to pick up turtles in the middle of the road. That's number one to me. You see a turtle going across. Hey, everybody stop! Dog on Route 4. If you've ever seen somebody stop for a dog on Route 4, I've seen people take their car and block the road to make sure that dog doesn't get hit. That's the community spirit of Calvert County. That's what I love about this place, and I don't want to see it destroyed. Thank you, Paul Harrison.
Well, you can go online. I'm just going to tell you. You go online under Calvert Citizens United, and you'll see what we, the group, and the citizens have accomplished. The comprehensive plan may be illegally approved. The 2019 comprehensive plan may be illegally approved, and we'll find that out within the next few months. There's 2 lawsuits. And if that's illegally approved, then Secretary McCord up at Maryland State Planning will not allow an illegally approved plan. So that means the plan gets remanded back, and this is where it's important. You all are going to need to be involved in that plan that's remanded back to the new Board of County Commissioners, because every bit of it, when we did that plan, when the citizens sat down, when they went to the senior home down in Prince Frederick, and they begged and they pleaded, and they said, no, don't do this. We don't want this. We don't want a Blue Plains sewer plant here. We don't need this. They ignored us. They did not pay one bit of attention to us. And so now, if we remand it back to the citizens, which will be the legal process, you all will need to sit down and speak up once again so that these men and women that are on the board will absolutely be able to follow your direction. What do you want? What do you want for your children and your children's children? You moved to the county because you wanted the quality of life. You stay in the county because you fell in love with it. And that's the important thing for all of us to keep and remember. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your attention.
I want to, first, everybody, thank all the candidates for coming. Appreciate it, your help. I got some public service announcements. Okay, we need volunteers to help with early voting. There's 3 centers. It's open for 7 days, 13 hours a day. That's a lot of time. If you split it up in 2 hours, that's 48 people per center. So when you think about it, we need help. You can go to the Calvert County Republican webpage, Republican Committee webpage, or the Facebook. There'll be links on there that you can click on, and it'll give you the phone numbers of the local captains. So we need help, and I want to thank everybody for being here. We had a great response tonight. I'm very happy that we're back to this. We started with a good one, and we ended with a good one. Thank you.